Hi everyone, welcome to my channel International Storyteller. In this channel, you will find true horror stories worldwide. These stories are for entertainment purposes only. In this video, I will tell you the real ghost story of Queen Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn is the second wife of King Henry VIII of England. She was also the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. Since her death almost 500 years ago, many still think that the Queen's spirit never really left us. There are countless reports of Anne Boleyn's ghost being seen at several locations across England. Her ghost is seen wandering across different locations of England in at least 7 different locations. So, Anne Boleyn's ghost is one of the most famous ghosts in England and has earned the title of the most well-traveled ghost in England. One of the reasons her ghost is seen at several locations across England is perhaps because of the unusual experience she had in her life. So, what really happened to Queen Anne Boleyn? Why is her ghost frequently seen at several locations across England? In order to know this, let us hear the story. Anne Boleyn was born in the early 1500s, somewhere between 1501 and 1507. After her grandfather Henry Boleyn died, her father, Thomas, inherited a castle called Hever Castle. This castle is located in Kent, which is in the southeastern region of England. It was built in the 13th century, approximately 1270. Then, in 1462, the castle came into the possession of Anne's grandfather, Henry Boleyn, who was a wealthy London merchant. Henry Boleyn's son, Thomas, changed his surname to Boleyn and married Elizabeth Howard, who was the daughter of the Duke of Norfolk. Thomas and Elizabeth had 5 children. But the eldest and the second son died when they were children, leaving behind Anne, her elder sister Mary, and her younger brother George. After Anne's father, Thomas, inherited Hever Castle from her grandfather, Henry Boleyn, her family members and siblings all stayed there together. Anne's father, Thomas, works at the royal court. Her father served under both King Henry VII and King Henry VIII. But she spent much of her early years in the Netherlands and France. There she learned music, dance, and knowledge about different religions, which was rare at that time. While staying there, she developed her intelligence, knowledge, and qualities that would later prove irresistible to King Henry VIII. When she returned to England at around 1521, it didn't take long for her charm, confidence, and bold personality to catch the eye of King Henry VIII. In 1525, Anne was planning to marry her cousin, James Butler, but it got broken off. After that she became the maid of honor to King Henry VIII's wife, Catherine of Aragon. At that time, King Henry VIII saw her and wanted the young and beautiful Anne to be one of his mistresses. However, she initially refused his advances because she didn't want to be just another mistress of his. If he wanted her, he would have to marry her because she wanted to be his queen, and not just a mistress. Thus, King Henry VIII was forced to fight to get Anne. He wrote 17 letters to her, pledging to be her loyal and most ensured servant. But she made it clear to him that if it was not marriage, then there was nothing for her to do with him. King Henry VIII had no choice but to divorce his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. Thus, he began his attempts to divorce his first wife Catherine. After all, Catherine had only given him a daughter, but the daughter would later become Queen Bloody Mary I of England. The reason for King Henry VIII wanting to marry another woman is because his first wife, Catherine, did not have a male heir. But he was unable to get a divorce from his first wife, Catherine, because at that time, the Catholic Church in England does not allow divorce because it views marriage as a permanent and unbreakable union between a man and a woman established by God. In fact, this led to one of the most significant events in British history, which is the breaking of the Catholic Church. King Henry VIII loved Anne so much and wanted to marry her. So he opposed the Pope, thus completely splitting the Catholic Church. Finally, he formed a new church called the Church o' England just to marry Anne. He put himself at the head of the new church. After that, on 25 January 1533, with the help of a high-ranking bishop named Thomas Cranmer, King Henry VIII got divorced from his first wife Catherine. And on the same day, he officially married Anne. Then, on 1 June 1533, the high-ranking bishop, Thomas Cranmer, placed a crown on Anne's head and declared her as King Henry VIII's queen. It was a universally unpopular coronation, and most people of England were concerned that Anne was a witch who had seduced the king. Since then, Queen Anne traveled with the royal servant and was given her own apartments. After the king was with her, they had a romantic relationship, and finally Anne was pregnant. Once Anne was crowned as queen, her first primary duty was to give a male heir to the king. More importantly, King Henry VIII was also desperate to have a son. But unfortunately, on 7 September 1533, Queen Anne gave birth to a girl. The king, who had long hoped for a son, was very disappointed. though their daughter was the future Queen Elizabeth I, who would go on to be one of the greatest rulers of England. Queen Anne never gave up, but she suffered several miscarriages, which is pregnancy failure. As a result, things became more complicated between her and King Henry VIII. Without a male heir, the tension in their marriage grew unbearable. The king, desperate for a son, started questioning everything, including Queen Anne. When Queen Anne's subsequent pregnancies ended in failure, the king began looking for another wife. By 1535, disappointed with his wife's inability to deliver him a male heir, it was clear that King Henry VIII's affections had shifted to another woman named Jane Seymour, who was one of Queen Anne's own personal assistants. Thus, the downfall of Queen Anne came after her husband, King Henry VIII, plans to marry her personal assistant, Jane Seymour, and have a son. Meanwhile, all her royal servants conspired against her, spreading baseless rumors of her having affairs with multiple men, including her own younger brother, George Boleyn. King Henry VIII also started paying attention to these baseless rumors. In April 1536, he also launched an investigation against Queen Anne for high treason, saying she wanted to kill him. Then, on 2 May 1536, she was arrested and charged with having an affair with multiple men and high treason. After that, she was sent to the Tower of London. There, Queen Anne was imprisoned for almost 2 weeks. On 15 May 1536, she was brought to trial before a jury. She was found guilty of having an affair with multiple men and high treason, and was sentenced to death. This alleged act of high treason was punishable by public execution. King Henry VIII arranged for a skilled swordsman from France to execute his wife, Queen Anne, rather than using a traditional axe. It was meant to be quicker and more merciful. Just 4 days later, on 19 May 1536, the skilled French swordsman arrived in England. Then Queen Anne was publicly executed at the Tower of London. Since then, the Tower of London guards whisper about a headless ghost silently moving from one place to another. Visitors also claim to have seen the ghostly apparition of Queen Anne, walking through the shadowy halls. Her soul is not at peace because she was betrayed by her own royal servant, and falsely accused of high treason by her husband. Many believe this betrayal left her spirit unable to find peace after her death, leading her spirit to haunt several places in England. To this day, there are many reports of sightings of Queen Anne's ghost roaming at several locations across England, including Hever Castle, Blickling Hall, Hampton Court Palace, Windsor Castle, Sal Church, and the Tower of London. All these palaces and castles were once part of her life when she was alive. First, let us hear the haunting story at Hever Castle in Kent, which is located in the southeastern region of England. It is one of the most haunted locations associated with the ghost of Queen Anne. This castle came into the possession of her family in 1462. She grew up within this castle surrounded by stone walls. So, Hever Castle is her childhood home. After her return to England from the Netherlands and France, she stayed in this castle. This is also the place where she spent most of her time in those expensive gardens, and made love with King Henry VIII. They could often be seen sitting underneath a large oak tree. With all of the happy and warm memories that Queen Anne had in this place, it's no wonder that her ghost is often seen on the grounds and in the halls of Hever Castle. Visitors who came to Hever Castle reported sightings of a mysterious female figure whom they believed to be the ghost of Queen Anne, wandering in the castle's gardens. Her ghostly figure also appeared beneath an old oak tree on the Hever Castle grounds. This is most likely because, before her marriage, she once sat with King Henry VIII and had her happiest moments of heart-filled memories under the old oak tree. A large portion of the sightings of Queen Anne's ghost in Hever Castle tend to happen around Christmas time. It was her favorite time of the year. Many eyewitnesses report seeing her ghost around each Christmas Eve, walking on the bridge over the River Eden. Queen Anne's ghost also has been observed near her former bedroom in Hever Castle. In 1976, a man called Bamford contacted Lord Astor, who was a descendant of Boleyn's family, as well as the owner of Hever Castle at that time. Bamford told the castle's owner that, upon visiting and entering Queen Anne's bedroom, he saw a strange young woman, aged between 25 and 26 years. The strange young woman was standing in front of a window and was looking outside. When he tried to confront it, the strange young woman disappeared suddenly. The second haunted place by the ghost of Queen Anne is the Blickling Hall in Norfolk, which is located in the eastern region of England. The Blickling Hall had strong ties to Queen Anne's family. She was born at Blickling Hall and lived there until the age of 4 or 5. Her family lived there before moving to Hever Castle. Interestingly, the haunting here appears to be the most disturbing one. Queen Anne's ghost is said to appear at Blickling Hall every year on 19th May, which is the anniversary of her execution. On this day, a scary figure of a carriage drawn by 4 headless horses and a headless coachman allegedly appears, with Queen Anne's ghost sitting inside the carriage. She came out of the strange carriage with her severed head held under her arm. Then the strange carriage disappears, leaving the headless ghost of Queen Anne to roam the Blickling Hall corridors and grounds until sunrise. The third haunted place by the ghost of Queen Anne is the Hampton Court Palace in London. Hampton Court Palace is a place where Queen Anne lived a happy life during her time as queen with King Henry VIII. This palace is also the place where she celebrated her coronation festivities, in which she was crowned as the Queen of England. Her connection with this place was deep. There is also a corridor filled with galleries, which is now known as the Haunted Gallery, and it is considered the most haunted room at Hampton Court Palace. The impressive gallery is linked to stories of heated arguments between Queen Anne and her husband, King Henry VIII, over his growing attention to her personal assistant Jane Seymour. This may be the reason why her ghost reportedly still wanders the haunted gallery. Many staff members often hear the noise of a gown dress moving down the hallway. At that moment, they felt a sudden rush of cold air in the hallway. Sometimes they also saw Queen Anne's ghostly figure coming out of the gallery. Her ghost often appears wearing a blue or black dress. She walks slowly through the gallery hallway with a sorrowful face filled with loss. On one day in 1999, a strange incident happened in the haunted gallery. On that day, while some visitors were touring through the hallway of the haunted gallery, one female visitor fainted in exactly the same spot where Queen Anne's photo was hanging. Another strange incident was also captured on CCTV footage in 2003. On the winter of 2003, Hampton Court Palace security staff were called to close one particular fire door near the palace's clock court. But on the first day of the fire door being closed, CCTV footage showed the doors flying wide open with great force, but nobody could explain how it happened. On the next day, the same thing happened, but this time a strange ghostly-looking woman in period dress suddenly appeared and closed the doors. The doors opened again on the third day, but there was no further sign of the strange ghostly-looking woman. The fourth haunted place by the ghost of Queen Anne is the Windsor Castle, located in the southeastern region of England. This castle was one of King Henry VIII's favored residences. Many people have reported seeing the ghost of Queen Anne standing at a window in the Dean's Cloister of Windsor Castle. During World War II, King George VI and his staff reportedly saw her ghost near the Dean's Cloister in the early morning hours. She was dressed simply in white and was moving slowly as if she is inspecting the area. Some people also claim that the ghost of Queen Anne has been seen running and screaming down the corridors of Windsor Castle. Sometimes her ghostly figure appears as if she is holding her severed head under her arm. The fifth haunted place by the ghost of Queen Anne is the Sal Church in Norfolk, which is located in the eastern region of England. The Sal Church has links to the Anne's family, as her ancestors were laid to rest there. On the anniversary of her execution, that is 19th May, many witnesses claim to have seen a ghostly figure that resembling the Queen Anne, wandering around the buildings. Her ghost is also said to be seen walking the grounds of the building, where King Henry VIII and Jane Seymour walked whilst they were planning their wedding. Unlike the restless hauntings at other places, Queen Anne's spirit seems to find peace among her ancestors there at Sal Church. The sixth haunted place by the ghost of Queen Anne is the Rochford Hall in Essex, which is located in the southeastern region of England. Since 1515, Rochford Hall was owned by her family. This house is said to be the place where King Henry VIII first saw her when she was young. Here he secretly and regularly met with Queen Anne before their marriage. According to a previous owner, there are reports of seeing a headless ghost of a woman roaming the building, with extreme temperature drops occurring during these ghost sightings. The final, and by far the most active places allegedly haunted by the ghost of Queen Anne, is the Tower of London. The main fortress of the tower, known as the White Tower, is said to be the most haunted building in London. It was a place of imprisonment and death for most of its existence, as well as a royal residence. Queen Anne's ghost has been seen in several places around the Tower of London grounds, such as in the White Tower and the Queen's House, where she allegedly stayed the night before crowning as Queen of England. The Tower of London is also the site where she was imprisoned prior to her execution on 19 May 1536. The Chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula is where she was buried under the floor of the chancel in an arrow case. Since her public execution, there have been several reports of her ghost appearing at the Tower of London. Witnesses often report seeing her figure kneeling in prayer by the altar, almost as if still searching for the peace in afterlife. In 1817, a sentry guard patrolling the White Tower suffered a fatal heart attack after encountering the ghost of Queen Anne standing on a staircase. Another famous alleged sightings of Queen Anne's ghost involves an on-duty soldier in 1864. He reported seeing a strange woman dressed in white walking near the Queen's house. Thinking she was an intruder, the soldier rushed at her and tried to strike her with his bayonet fixed on the tip of rifle. But instead of striking flesh, he went straight through her like there is nothing but thin air. The strange woman suddenly disappeared in front of him. After knowing what he saw is not a real person but a ghost, the on-duty soldier fainted for a moment. There was also another officer who supported this on-duty soldier's story, saying he saw the whole event that happened on that day. Queen Anne's ghost is most commonly seen near the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula at the Tower of London, because this is the place where her headless dead body was buried. In the late 19th century, a captain of the Royal Guard saw a light flickering coming out of the windows from the locked chapel late at night. In order to know what could be making the lights from the locked chapel, the captain took a ladder and climbed to one of the windows to get a better look. But he was shocked at the scene taking place inside the locked chapel, and what he saw was a sight that no one could believe. Inside the chapel, he saw a procession of royal knights, lords and ladies, all wearing ancient dress, probably 16th century clothing. They were all marching inside the chapel, led by a beautiful female figure that resembled Queen Anne. They were marching in the room for a while, and then a moment later, all of them together with the light disappeared.